Hi, this is Amy with the Hag Reads. I am back here today for my first official day of vlogging, which I talked about yesterday in my change of format video. I finished a book. So the first one I'm going to talk about, just one today. I am almost done with another book, and I will talk about that tomorrow. I think I might have two to talk about tomorrow. Let's see here. Yeah, just one or two tomorrow, just one today. And then I'll talk a little bit about some knitting stuff because I knit with Red Heart yarn. This is the Super Saver. The color's probably not going to come out that good because the light's not that good in here right now. This is a turquoise color, and this is really big, and it also comes in a smaller skein size. Let me see if I have something back here. Not readily available. But this is what I normally knit with, and it's very stiff on the skein, and when you roll it into a ball, and then when you wash it, it softens up some. But this is a worsted, an Aran weight yarn, so it's a little bit thicker than a worsted, and so it's it's a pretty good size yarn in terms of the width here. If you've ever seen like sock weight or fingering weight, they're very thin. Let me see what weight this one is. This is the other one that I have here is a Caron Soft, and it is you're supposed to say they're a 4 medium, but this here is on the Caron Soft is, well, it's much softer, but it's also a little bit thinner. And with the Red Heart, I've noticed there is a difference from skein to skein, from color to color, in how thick this is. But you can, I don't know if you can see here, but there is a difference in the thickness. This is much thicker. It's also much stiffer, but as you wash it, the more times you wash it, the more you wear it, the softer it gets. Red Heart is kind of a workhorse yarn. A lot of people use it for craft fairs and for things they sell that they want to maybe whip out faster. Hats, fingerless gloves, you see this a lot. Mittens, that sort of thing. You will find a lot of this at non-specialty craft fairs. And this is kind of what I've always knit with. I didn't really know about nice yarn. I knew like this is more expensive than this, but there are ones that are more expensive than this, and you can get them thinner. Yarns that are designed for baby blankets and for socks are much thinner than this, and they're commercially available. But what I'm really in love with right now are independent yarn dyers, which I cannot afford right now. Those start at about $24 and can go all the way up to $45, but the yarns that are available in the higher range are generally a composition that I don't like. I don't like anything scratchy and that I have to be super delicate with. I want whatever I knit with to still be fairly durable and long-lasting, because I'm not I'm not a prissy person, so my stuff gets picked. I live my life. I'm not one of those perfect people that is always perfect. Clearly, you can tell. I don't spend a lot of time because I just want to enjoy life. I don't want to spend it making myself up and taking all my time to always look perfect. So I'm kind of haphazard, I guess. And so I would never buy anything that has a lot of upkeep and maintenance that's part of its allure, I guess. I know there are people that just love that sort of thing, and that's not me. So I don't want any prissy yarn. And I mean that in a nice way. It's yarn that you would be careful with because it's expensive. The source, whatever it's made out of, is more expensive, and so it's worth it because it has its own long-lasting life. My life doesn't entail the kind of activities to require that quality of clothing or garment that I make for myself. I want something that's a little hardier because that's my life. But, and just so you know, I love orange yarn. I consider this nuclear orange. Like, this is biohazard orange. And it just says orange on the label, and I got it thinking it would be a really bright orange, which it is. But, hold on one second. So I really do love orange yarn, but, so, and this is an orange. It's looking red when I look at it on here. I know sometimes when you play it back, there's yet another difference because I often think it's too dark on the screen, but when I play it back, it looks okay. There's still some daylight outside, but it's late in the afternoon and the sun has moved to that side of the house, so you're not getting as much light through here. This is pumpkin. This is also a Red Heart Super Saver, and it's much lighter. It's looking very orange on the screen I'm looking at. But this is almost a bright tangerine color. Like, it's a light pumpkin color. If you went to the store and you bought a pumpkin for Halloween, it would be this color, this kind of faded orangey color. This is, and together, next to this, it looks red. But this is literally, if the biohazard sticker you see on things, that's what color this is. I bought it thinking it was going to be a little bit deeper, more intense than this, which it is, but I didn't think it was gonna like make my eyeballs bleed, which it does. So I couldn't do what I wanted with this, and I've been holding on to it, and I will show you what I have done with one skein of it so far. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the rest of it because it's so very bright. I just don't know if I can, like, I don't know if anybody would want a baby blanket out of this. It's I almost want to say it's ugly, but I tend to gravitate towards things that are somewhat unattractive, and, you know, it's so ugly it's cute. And done right with the right yarns, I really think this could be something cute. I just, my brain hasn't quite got there, and so I'm struggling with this, but I love the way this feels. It's much slicker to knit. It doesn't catch on bamboo needles, which is mostly what I use. But I love this color because I like a true pumpkin color. Like, when I think of orange, there's the range that you get for fall leaves, which is awesome, where you can get anywhere from a dirty orange to, you know, almost a rust brown orange. I would take anything in orange, just love it to death. But this is almost a little too far for me. This is biohazard orange. But, so those are the two main yarns I've been knitting with for a long time. So just so you get an idea, I don't have any of the nicer yarns because I just, at this point right now, I can't afford it. But I'm going to show some pictures so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about. And they're the ones that you see maybe on Pinterest. You might catch a glimpse of. They're the ones that are twisted. And so they're like this tall, and it's twisted, almost braided together. They are awesome, beautiful. You can get speckled, tweeds, variegated. There's such a variety of when you're doing indie dyers. So I've favorited a few shops on Etsy, and I have got signed up for newsletters from a few websites for indie dyers. And my goal is to be able to start buying in very small increments, 1 or 2 skeins at a time, and just kind of hoarding it away until I have enough to do some projects with. I have some wraps and some shawls. I like the kind of sail shape or the crescent shape. You can use it as like a wrap, or that you can use as a shawl. It's kind of a shorty, but that's my preferred shape. And I have never knit one myself, so I told myself what I would work on towards the end of the year is a couple of new stitches and to learn a couple of patterns in knitting, so that as I'm accumulating this yarn, I'm hoping I'll be able to start around September or January, between September, or not September, but November and January, being able to buy 1 or 2 skeins at a time, because they start at $24, and the most expensive one I've seen for anything I would want is $30. So 1 skein would obviously be that plus shipping, and then 2 skeins would be anywhere from let's say $50 to $60 plus shipping. So I'm thinking $75 for 2, and I could not do that very often, but I want to kind of build my stash slowly and then just come in and knit a bunch of projects that I will have learned to do the stitches on with a lower quality yarn, to learn how to do it before breaking out the expensive. So you don't want to invest like $150 in yarn for a project and totally muff it up and have it be unwearable, or have to keep pulling it out and starting over, because it's fine to do that a little bit, but the more that you undo the yarn, you're kind of compromise the fiber of it over time if you have to do it too many times. And I'm not the kind of person that learns something right away. It normally takes me a little while to really get the hang of things, and I'll mostly be learning off of YouTube videos. There's a lot of tutorials out there, so I want to kind of perfect the pattern, learning the stitches and stuff like that before I really go all in with an expensive yarn. And for me, a $25 for a skein of yarn, extremely expensive. But I've been watching podcasts and people who make normal amounts of money. I'm sure it's nothing to them. That's a lunch out or whatever for a couple of people at my budget level, but I know there are people who regularly drop that amount of money and don't think anything of it. And it's not a judgment on my part. I would love to be able to do that. Truly, I would. And not have it be, well, I can have yarn, or I can have a place to live, which is where I'm at right now. So I would save up and start slowly investing in my stash. And I think all people involved in knitting and crochet, you kind of become a smaug. You become a yarn smaug. You start to hoard your yarn. You get a stash, and you kind of pet it. And you watch some of these podcasts of people with their yarn, and they're practically molesting it. And I understand why, because when you get a color or you're working a pattern that you really like, you kind of do feel, my precious, it becomes something that, you're very excited about. And I used to love knitting. I have done, over the course of my life, a number of patchwork blankets out of squares. I never got the hang really of crochet. My edges would always wind up not straight. It would start to taper to a small, or it would start to, I never could get straight edges. My son is going to help me pick out some tutorials because he does not teach well. He's not very patient at this point in his life. So I can ask him questions about stuff if I get confused, but he doesn't do good with sitting down and teaching me something. We don't do that well together with yarn, so I will learn that from YouTube. But there's a couple of things that I want to learn in crochet too. And then he has wanted for a long time to be able to buy, you see these kind of starry sky, speckly yarns. He goes in for ocean colors, anything in an ocean color range, or anything that looks like a swirling sky or universe kind of thing. That's like his jam in terms of yarn. I'll show you what I like in a little bit. But let me talk about my book first, now that I've nattered on for 14 minutes about yarn. I'm so sorry. The book that I read was The Sundial by Shirley Jackson. And she wrote The Haunting of Hill House, which I read and loved. And of course, I've seen a couple of horror movies that were made from it, a more modern one, and then the original black and white. And I liked them both, and I liked the book. This is Jackson's 4th novel, The Sundial, but it's only my 2nd experience with her. Excuse me, I have a cross between hiccups and tea burps. Terribly sorry. And she does, it's called, in the blurb that's on Goodreads, the little description, It's referred to as stunningly creepy. And I don't know if I really felt that way about it. I just felt like it was an odd novel. Like, it's a slow-paced, atmospheric novel for sure. But I just felt like it was spoiled rich people and their hangers-on doing despicable things because they can. And that didn't feel particularly creepy to me. The basis of the story is that it's all these people in this mansion, in this huge house, and you know, the patriarch of the family, the original. So it's the current, the main character. I'm trying to think of who's. It's told from the perspective, I think, of Aunt Fanny, and she's the sister of the current patriarch of the family, Richard, who's married to, I think it's pronounced Oriana, and he is failing in health, so he has kind of reached the point where he's had a stroke and he's in a wheelchair, and I think maybe he's got the beginnings of dementia, and so she's really in control. And as the book starts out, you're just shove it in your face. They're coming back from the funeral of her son, Lionel, whom she pushed down the stairs so that she could keep control of the family fortune. And so there's this cast of characters that they're all coming back, and they all know she did it, and there's going to be zero consequences for her. I just was kind of floored by that. But the basic premise is that Aunt Fanny, after this funeral, she goes out into the garden, either that day or a couple days after, and she has a vision of her father, who's the original patriarch, coming to her and saying that the family needs to stay in the house. Shortly, there's going to be an apocalyptic type event, but if they're in the house, they'll be safe, and only the people in the house will be safe. And she goes in and she tells everybody, and this happens almost directly after Oriana has basically told everybody, screw all you people, all you know, living in the house is her and her husband, Aunt Fanny, who's Richard's sister, the son's wife, the granddaughter, Fancy, and a nanny for Fancy, who doesn't seem to really do anything with the child. She spends most of the time with Aunt Fanny. And I guess it would be a gigolo. It's just a pretty boy who's attached himself to Oriana. And she's basically told them all, you're all out. I'll give you money that I decide how much, and you're all getting out of the house. But almost immediately after, then Aunt Fanny goes out and has this vision and tells everybody about it. And so Oriana basically says, okay, everybody can stay. And then after that, a friend of the family shows up with her two daughters, and they're kind of airhead, selfish, not as wealthy. So there's this kind of, she kind of condescends to them, Oriana does, and agrees to let them stay. And so slowly they kind of accumulate a few extra people who are going to stay in the house through this, and so that's the basic cast of characters. And it really is just spoiled rich people who are able to basically do whatever they want. And even with the apocalyptic bent, I didn't feel frightened by this novel at all. It was almost a joke, like I hope that Shirley Jackson was poking fun at them. I didn't dislike the book, but I wouldn't have classified it as horror. I'm not really sure what I would classify it as, because it didn't scare me in any way, and I just felt like these people are jerks. They're really, really jerks. So you have this big manor house that all these people are in, and they're kind of laying in supplies, but it wasn't set in, it's not contemporary. So it was set, I'm not really sure what the time frame is, but it was, there were cars, so it's semi-contemporary. And the manor house is outside of a village, or there's a village a little bit farther on, and I think the people from the house seem to treat them as if they should be ever so grateful that they have this kind of, like, that they're the benefactors of this village. And I don't think the villagers thought very highly of these people. I liked it, but it confused me in terms of, was I supposed to like these people? And I don't think I was. Because I didn't like any of them. And the daughter, Fancy, the granddaughter, who knows she's going to inherit, makes a comment shortly after the beginning of the novel, like almost immediately after they've arrived from the funeral. She asks her mother if she could push the grandmother down the stairs. And there are indications throughout the novel that she's not psychologically sound. She's either a psychopath or a sociopath, and I'm not entirely sure which one, because her character wasn't terribly drawn out. But she's not a nice child. No conscience, to my way of thinking. And I won't give away the things that really tell you that, outside of at the very beginning. I'm not spoiling anything, because I think it's also in the description that basically Fancy is already more psychologically disturbed than the Oriana character is, who could push her own son down the stairs to keep money. So I enjoyed the read very much, but for me, I wouldn't classify it as horror or even as a scary story, because it doesn't scare me. It feels more like kind of poking fun at the aristocratic class of whatever time. These are people who can essentially do whatever they want because they have enough money to, I guess, either pay off officials or to have people defer to them as to what they're going to do about these things. Because there's no intimation at any point here that Oriana is being investigated for the death where the son, was pushed down the stairs and died. None of the family seems to have overly angry feelings about it. It was just weird. So, yes, if you want to read a book about creepy rich people being creepy and rich, and how they kind of deal with this impending doom, then yes, read it. But if you're hoping for something along the lines of a haunting at Hill House, The Haunting of Hill House, it doesn't compare for me to that. I liked The Haunting of Hill House much better than I liked this, but this had its own benefits. I definitely did not like any character in here. Not even the villagers. Like, I couldn't pick anybody out that I was like, nah, character was okay. So that's the only book I have for today. And then I wanted to show a couple of things. So I think I showed way back that I said I was making a baby blanket on some circular needles. And when I showed it, there was just this part, like I think it went this much. So I finished that row, and I'll kind of try and, so it's a pretty, I guess, not row, but this block of, so it's meant to be really, really big stripes. And then here's the green. So the lime green is in this, this is wildflower, this is lime green, and then this is, I don't know the name of the blue, but it's kind of a sky blue, and that's the next stripe. And so it will be, this stripe is a little bit smaller than the green stripe, and all the stripes in the middle will be the same color or the same width as this green, and then it will be topped off at the end with a skein of this. So this one is an entire skein. This is the smaller skein. And this one took a little bit more than half a skein of that really big one that I showed you. But I'm knitting this on and it's starting to come off. On, I think, 4.5 millimeter circular needles. And I'm not knitting it for anybody, I just felt like knitting a baby blanket. And then I have a throw that I'm working for me, but I will show that on another video. These are, so that's made out of the red heart. These are made out of the, so this is the purple, and it looks blue on here. Maybe it'll look, it's a like a dark gravy purple. And then this, I don't know if it's called lime green. I just call it lime green. I don't have the wrapper for this one anymore. But these are the Caron Soft. So so you can kind of see here, this is a little bit stiffer of a fabric that I've knit in. But this is really floppy and drapey. So that's kind of and this will soften up, but it will never be this soft and squishy. Like, this is totally squishy and soft. And these are for my son. These are his. The ends are not fully tucked in yet. And this one doesn't have its decorative little border on the end here. So these are kind of long. It can do a wrap around. I'll do it, but I don't have a neck, so I don't look particularly good in a scarf. But he wanted stripy scarves for Halloween this year. And so this is kind of the look that it will get. And he wanted the lime green and the purple. And then this is what I figured out to do with that orange. So here's this one is called Bleeding Eyeballs. Just serious. This is the same gravy purple with the nuclear orange. And this has about a third of the ends tucked. But it also has the, ooh, don't go. It's heavy when it all drops to the floor. This has already the border done on it. So just a fun little decorative border in the accent color. And this it's the Caron yarn. It's super squishy. Just because he was like, I know what you could do with some of that orange. And so I made this for him, and it only took half a ball. It's like, oh, I should have done it the other way. I should have done the small ones in the purple and the bigger ones in the orange to use more of it. But he liked the purple a lot, so I used that as the main color in both scarves. And then I will do out of the Super Saver. I have the balls. Hold on one sec. Okay. So I'm going to make several variations on this. So the purple that I have is not, it doesn't go as well. It's a much darker kind of, not so much grape, it's more amethyst. So I don't think this goes well together, so we decided to use black as the base. So there'll be a black and a lime green, a purple and a lime green, no, a purple and a black, a lime green and a black, and then this pumpkin orange and a black. And they'll be kind of the same stripey as that, but this is out of the Red Heart, which is really, it's a workhorse. A scarf in this that you would only wear for Halloween, you know, kind of the month of October on Halloween night. You probably get many years worth of wear out of this. And these are the ones he asked for his Etsy store. And the reason a lot of people use this for crafting is the expense. The Caron is not terribly more expensive, but the skeins are much, much smaller. So, you know, clearly. When I made the other ones, I used, for each scarf, almost an entire skein of purple. And then, about a little more than half a skein of orange, and a little bit more than a half a skein of the lime green, the little ball I showed you. And you could insert your favorite ball joke here, because that's, yeah, I have different colored big balls. But this is, I started out with less than a skein of this because my son used this as part of a baby blanket. And I had meant to buy more, and I didn't the last time I ordered yarn. So I could only make one with this. I could totally make one more with the orange and purple. I might even be able to make 2 more with the orange and purple. Typically, once my son starts wearing them, somebody else asks for one, and I'll, wind up knitting for his friends and stuff. And sometimes they tip me, and sometimes they don't. But they have all promised not to hug me, so you have to know me for a very long time before I will let you hug me. I'm not a hugger. I want you to stay out of my hula hoop. So I will have 3, maybe 4. I might also do a black and a white stripes. They'll look very similar to this one, with the big stripe and the small stripe. And then I also would love to do an autumn, and I will talk about an autumn colors one with the orange and the black, and I have a palette picked out. I'm doing a throw in that for me, and I will probably show that next time. I don't think the book I have to talk about will take up very much time, so but these are what I'm starting next. I'm currently working on, so I'll consider the scarf one project, and he wants 5 of each one for his store, and then I'll probably make the lime green and the black for me, because I like the lime green so much. Lime green is one of my favorite colors, but I get such a kick out of this color, and it's good for Halloween because it pairs well. Like, I could even do a lime green and an orange. I'll ask him about it. I didn't think of it before, if he would like that for a store as well, but I think these would be fun together. And this will probably be, when I do my Grinch Before Christmas, How the Grinch Stole Christmas scarf, I'll probably be using this and an off-white color. Because we've only talked a little bit about the Christmas scarves, but I'll be starting those either towards the end of this month or very early September, because he'll want to be able to put those up probably around Halloween. I know people do it before, but I don't really want to have anything Christmas in the Etsy store or on eBay before Halloween has happened. It just offends my sensibilities, so I don't want to subject other people to it. But that's really what I'm working on right now. And then I wanted to show you, not that you care, but just so that I can have a place to gush, because my son really doesn't care. If it's not for him, he doesn't give 2 snoots about what I, how do I make this? I'm borrowing his Chromebook. He's not home and he doesn't know. Don't tell. No, I'll totally tell him. I never borrow his stuff without not telling him. So this is from Gnome Acres Yarn Studio, and they are indie dyers, and I absolutely am in love with from the podcast that I listen to, and I will talk about that next time, because it will be a good 12-minute stretch while I gush about and fangirl about this podcast that I'm in love with right now. But I found out about Gnome Acres from the podcast, and I love the name. It's so cute. The little logo is a gnome on a tractor right here. He's so cute. And this is Arthur Weasley. This is a DK weight yarn, which is a little bit, it's probably a little bit thinner than the Caron Soft, and just as soft. But I love this color with the greens. It's kind of a, it's some olivey green and a burgundy and a cream color, and it's speckly. I am just in love with this. If I had money to drop right now, I could easily spend, between this and their Halloween pre-orders that they're having available starting tomorrow, I could easily drop $500. And you can see this is one of the $24 ones for a skein, and I normally buy in 3s. But for this kind of yarn, I don't think I could ever feel comfortable ordering in 3s. I would order in 2s, though, because I want to make wraps and shawls, cowls, and then I want to have leftovers, mini balls. Yes, I said it, mini balls, for a scrap blanket that I want to make a hexagon shape out of, and that's what I want. That's really what I want to learn how to do the crochet for. That, and there are so many fingerless glove patterns, which I would love to learn how to knit, and for boot cuffs. It typically doesn't get cold enough here for us to wear boots other than for show, so you go out and your feet just sweat. We have very little cold enough weather to genuinely wear boots, and not have sweaty feet. But I love this Arthur Weasley. This is one of the first ones I fell in love with. And then this one is called Black Widow, and look at that. It's red and burgundy and black, and it's got some speckles in it. Oh, it's gorgeous. And I've gotten to touch a DK White yarn from an Indie Tire, and I had to like just pat it a little bit because I really wanted to molest it. But it's gorgeous. I love this. If I could buy one today, I would totally buy this. I would have trouble choosing between the three that I have up here, though. I love the Arthur Weasley. I love the Black Widow. And the other one is from the Supernatural TV show. This Bobby Singer. I hope it comes. Look at the, it's again the olivey green. There's some navy blue in here. There's 2 tones of brown, a cream color. It is just, this is so my colors. Oh, my son would go, oh, that's pretty. Or, yeah, I like it. But if you, I wish I should have brought up one that really shows his kind of, there was one on here. So he would be somewhere between, I'm not going to make them big, but you see over here, this purpley one. And then this one is called Blueberries. This is more his colors. This one is very, I don't think it's going to pick up on the screen, but woohoo! It is, oh, that's not right. I totally touched the, here. Let's see. It's sparkly. It's got a sparkle in it. That would be totally his thing. That's like totally his color. But also in blues. If that came in the blueberry with the sparkle, he would pass out. It would be like, you've seen the footage. Well, I don't know if you've seen, but it's kind of like the screaming fangirls for the Beatles. And then passing out. That would really be his reaction. This one that I'm going to show you is super small pictures, and they don't get any bigger, but this is the Halloween release that's coming out, and I love almost everything on here. So this bottom one is Witch's Brew, and then you have Trick or Treat and Smell My Feet. Let me see if I can, what was this one? I don't think I can tell without the... Anyway, that entire row right there, everything right there, I would totally... Witch's Brew is my favorite. And then you go up here a little bit higher. This is Kickin' Leaves, which is a kind of an autumn colors one. I don't know if these are going to come out very good because it's such a small picture. But it would be between this and Witch's Brew for my favorite. And that's Granny's Kitchen. And I also love that with the browns and the yellows. And then over here is, oh shoot. Over here, I'm trying to keep my fingers off it. Let me see if I can do this. Now I've lost it. So this is Mrs. Frankie and Mr. Frankie, and it's kind of the same colors. This is 2 or 3 tones of green. And Mrs. Frankie has a hot pink in there, which I don't think is showing up very well. But I am in love with those. So, for quantities and what I would really want, I could easily, if I had it, drop $500 and not care. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go out, like, I don't really go out to eat, I don't go out to bars, I don't socialize very much. I am very much a homebody, so when you're talking, this would be my drug of choice, is yarn. And I could knit for hours and hours. I'm going to leave it at that. Now you've seen me gush on my yarn. I really, yarning is very, knitting is very meditative. It's introspective. You focus on, it is like meditation because you're focused on what you're doing. And I typically pop on a podcast and I listen to that. Or an easy audiobook, but I can just sit and knit with nothing but some mellow music, because you focus on the stitches and it clears your mind and your body relaxes. So I have trouble sitting to meditate. I'm working on it. I can do about 3 minutes since I started back up again before I get too restless. I'm working towards a good 20-minute sit, but right now I can do about a solid 3-minute sit. But if I'm knitting, you know, in meditation you often focus on your breath, but in knitting, if you're focused on the stitch, your breathing just really relaxes. All my shoulders just drop. I don't get all tense with my knitting unless it's something that I've never done before, or I'm learning. Like when I bought those big circular needles that I'll show you next time, I bought my I think it's a 60-inch circular needle, and it's a metal, and so it's very slick. Now when I was starting to use that, I was tensed up a little bit, but now that I've got the pattern, the way that it works, I have a much easier time with it, and it's just a very meditative, relaxing activity. Knitting is a happy place for me, so I am so thankful that while I'm using cheap yarn and it's not 100% what I really want to be doing, I love knitting so much that I'm happy to be able to knit with anything. I would knit with thread if I had to. But I'm going to have fun with these colors for this, for my son, for the scarves that he wants. And he's so very excited about his wardrobe and what he wants to do that he's like, "Are you going to start today?" And I said, "Well, yeah, probably tonight I'll start on one of them because I'm working on the throw, I'm working on the baby blanket, and I don't just want to let him sit." Because that's the other thing that happens is the danger with knitting is casting on. You become addicted to casting on new projects, and so you'll get excited about something, and I have a problem with not finishing things. Like I'll get very excited about something and I'll get about halfway through and then I'll get excited about something else. And it's not that I'm less excited about this, but if I'm not careful, I'll have, 12 projects going. And this is a bigger danger for sock knitters because you can have a lot of sock needles and projects going and they're not very big because the yarn balls you get are not this big. They're much smaller than this. Well, this size skein works up into this size ball. So, it's a big chunky ball. I'm sorry. I'm so mature. But so you get a much smaller, more compact because the yarn is a thinner, not more delicate, because a lot of the fibers are woven with a nylon to give them strength. A lot of them are 80-20 or 80-10-10 for the breakdown with the varying components. A lot of them are superwash merino and stuff like that. Every yarn dyer has their own base that they work with. And so you get such a wide variety, but they all are a much finer than what this looks like here. And it's a pleasure to knit with them, and you use much smaller needles. Like I'll be knitting these scarves. These are my biggest needles there. This is a size 15, and it's a 10 millimeter. And then you saw earlier my 4.5 millimeter needles. Maybe I can get them over here without making a huge mess. But they go all the way down. You can get into the 0.5 millimeters, but they're specialty needles, and you typically don't get them in a set. But so you can see knitting something like this and then switching to something like this, it's a learning curve because you're like, this feels like a jumbo kids pencil that I'm knitting with. Those ones you have like in preschool or kindergarten, that really big pencil. And then this is like knitting smaller than about a chopstick size. It's a little bit thinner than a chopstick, I think. And these are also much shorter because you have the cable. So, and then these are a 15, and I'm knitting my big throw on a size 10. And the loop on the baby blanket is very small. I think that's like a 20-inch loop, maybe 24, because the size includes the needles on the end. So I think they measure it from end to end. I think that's a 24-inch. It might be smaller than that, but the 60-inch it's very big. So I'm knitting this yarn on this big needle because you get So where this was done with a size 10 needle. And you can kind of see this is a very loose. If I knit this with a size 4, then you get a much denser fabric with it. So you can see I can stick my finger through it a little bit. But for blankets, I don't like it to be like that because I don't want my toes to stick through them. That bothers me. But for this weight yarn, for this thickness of the thread, I like this size, and I will demonstrate next time when I have some scarves in there that are finished that he's probably going to offer at a discount closer to Christmas to kind of boost up his sales. But you get something that out of this yarn that kind of feels like this. It's very squishy, and so I like the way that feels. And for October, except for in the extreme northern states, you really don't need, for the most part, a super heavy scarf. It's more something that you're going to put on decoratively, but it should be woven well enough that typically I make these long enough to wrap around at least once, and I like to be able to make them long enough, if I can, to wrap around twice, so I might make it a little thinner. This one is 36 stitches cast on the purple and the orange and the green and the purple. So that's kind of my plan, and I have talked for 46 minutes, so I think I should shut up now. I will be back tomorrow with a new book and some yarn talk and maybe a little tiny bit of pagan stuff, but you can count on these being a little bit. I'll try to put the book content at the front so that if you're not interested in the rest of what I have to say, you're not subjected to 45 minutes of yarn talk or 15 minutes before I talk about the book and then I squee about some more yarn. I am looking forward to seeing all of the Halloween colors come out, and then I can kind of guesstimate a budget for saving next year. I won't be able to spend $500 per place, but I can kind of figure out what I love the most, and hopefully next year I'll have a savings. Halloween colors are some of my favorite, and then I'm not a big spring colors person, although I do love yellows and oranges quite a lot, so we'll see how it goes. But it'll give me an idea, because I know I'll want some specifically Halloween yarns next year, and I'll want to be able to put in the pre-orders for them. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on it this year, so I know how much to save for next year and to prepare my son for, so that I can go, I'm going to spend this amount on yarn, and it's going to mostly be for me. Although I do have some projects that I want to knit for him, but they're kind of secret gifts. I don't want to tell him, well, I'm buying this yarn to knit you something. I want to spring it on him, and he doesn't watch my podcast ever, so you don't have to worry about that. So happy whatever time of day it is for you. It is early evening here for us, late afternoon, early evening. It's after 5 o'clock. I'm totally excited about all of the knitting I'm going to be doing for Halloween, because these knit up really fast. So it's a totally fun project. It's a little bit longer with the stripes because I have to tie everything off, you know, with the ends, and it's a little... The end weaving takes up some time, but I am very excited about it and looking forward to doing this a great deal. So I will see you next time. Happy whatever time of day it is. I hope you're having a wonderful week. It's almost the end of the week. Yes. Yay. I will see you later. Bye.